Hello, everybody. This is Patti Negri. Welcome to the Witching Hour. Yes, the Witching Hour, that hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. I have some really, really special magic for you today. Magic that I am excited about. Not just any old magic. We have werewolf magic. Ah! Oh! So let me tell you about this beautiful howling man right next to me. Let me introduce you to Denny Sargent. He is a writer, artist, and university instructor who has a master's degree in history, intercultural communications. He has written for magazines and anthologies in the US and Japan, and has written books and articles on paganism, Western occultism, spells, folklore, magic, and tantra. Denny is the author of 8 books and co-author of 2 more. Welcome, Denny.
Thank you for having me, Patti. I'm really excited to come and talk about werewolf magic.
Yes, I know this. Me too, because I know so little. I know we both identify as witches. We are both witches. You're a many degree, and I get
Witchcraft.
that. I identify as a psychic. I identify as a medium. I identify as a witch, a pagan. I identify as a vampire. So that's why I understand some of your stuff here, especially the howling. But I know nothing about werewolves. So tell us a little bit about what is werewolf magic.
Okay, well, this is the book that started it all, and this came out right in the middle of the pandemic, which I think probably was a really good thing because I started to find all these Facebook pages with people who were interested in werewolves, and there was one that was fascinating that had 8,000 members, and it was called Howl at 8 p.m. And I don't know if you saw that, but so people all over the world, because they were stuck in the pandemic, were out there howling at 8 p.m. And just while I was writing this book, and I was thinking, okay, I have a book for these people. So let me explain very, very quickly how I ended up with this. I've written a lot of different books on different things, Shinto and the god Pan and spells and witchcraft and all, and hermetic stuff and some serious stuff. But about 5 years ago, I had a really, really bad year, lost everything. Lost my wife, lost, I have a severely autistic kid, lost my home, lost my money, lost my job. And I was at sort of the end of my rope. I mean, we all have those times in life when we're just like, I can't deal with this anymore. And I ended up in an apartment. I was taking care of a friend of mine who had early onset Alzheimer's. It was just everything was falling apart. I meditate every night. I'm a tantric, so I do have a meditation every night to sort of clear away everything and get centered. And as the horrible things started to pile up on my life, and I was just about to snap and just thought, okay, I'm done with this life. I think I'm really done with everything. In my meditation, this wolf started. Oh, a dog! Awesome timing. So a wolf started to show up in my meditations, a 3-eyed wolf. Now, normally I cast a very tight circle, and entities don't come in that I don't invoke, right? But it kept showing up, and it would sit there and just look at me. And every night I would do these meditations, and every night this wolf started showing up. And finally, I opened up to it. I said, what do you? And it said, I'm here to help you. You're really on the edge, and I'm here to show you something and take you into a place that's going to help you a lot. So I opened up and started to write down everything it was kind of communicating to me. And number one was to get out into the woods, rip off all my clothes, and become an animal, you know? And I was like, oh, what? You know, now I happen to live near 70 acres of woods. So I started doing what it said, and I went off and just went completely. I just let go of all the stress and all the anger and all the pain and everything, and started to figure out how to let my animal side come out and take my upper brain, my constantly chattering pain in the butt brain, and let it sink down. And so I'm doing all this stuff because I'm getting these I'm being told essentially, like, this is what you need to do or you're gonna crash. And you know, better this than a psychiatric hospital. And then I started and I felt 100% better. Not only that, but as I started to do this on a regular basis, full moons is always the best. And it's traditional, of course, with werewolves, but also full moon is when our our water level is high. Insane asylums go crazy at full moon. My classes were always wild, teaching university on a full moon, around a full moon. So it was the best time I found to pull up my animal side and let it loose. You know, I thought, okay, this is nice, and it was working for me. It was very therapeutic. And then I thought, well, maybe I should research and see if there's anything like legit about this. And that's what ended up being Werewolf Magick, because I'm a historian, right? I have part of my degree is in ancient history. And I was like, well, is this a thing? And then I started finding yes, in the Vikings. I don't know how many of you have seen the Northmen. Have any of you seen that? Have you seen that? Okay, the scene where they do the werewolf transformation, where they take the clearly psychedelics and the spirit of the wolf comes and possesses them. A wolf or a bear, and the hero, I found out, is actually in that movie taking on both spirits, wolf and bear. I read a review of it that said that it was very subtle, but it's there. So watching those sorts of things and doing some research on the Vikings, and I've been to Iceland, and I had some conversations there with people about shape-shifting, and they all believe in it. They all absolutely believe in it. And so I started looking. Well, I found out that our entire magical traditions, all of our magical traditions, have been woven together with shape-shifting, animism, shape-shifting, and werewolves, especially in the West. So I found out, like, in ancient Greece, prehistoric Greece, there's a Mount Lycaon, Wolf Mountain, where the wolf god was worshipped. And later Zeus came, and Zeus Lycaon became the god of that. Just down the hill from there was the shrine of Pan Lycaon. So I'm finding all these like werewolf gods and werewolf ceremonies where people would turn into werewolves. And there's all kinds of images. If you go looking, you'll see. Well, then I looked into the Celtic world, and lo and behold, werewolves were a huge thing in ancient Celtic world, ancient Celtic tribal cultures. There's a tribe, and I can go on for a long time about this.
No, this is great. Go.
so okay, look, calm down. So like, there's a tribe in Ireland called the Ossory tribe, and there's all kinds of historical stories and books about these different tribes that would once a year would all meet for a festival and then turn into werewolves for a week or 2 weeks. And I've seen this over and over again. The historian Herodotus, the Greek historian Herodotus, went to what's now Russia, to the Nurii tribe, and he wrote the exact same thing, very matter of factly. Oh, these mountains were nice, the temples were nice. Oh, and I met the Nurii, and they had a festival, and they turned into werewolves for a week, and then they turned back. So over and over again, you find the same sort of pattern of people going into these cultures and seeing people turn into werewolves, and I'm thinking, what is this, right? And then I started researching and going further and further. And then I went into the witchcraft trial documents, because I'm a historian and I go crazy on stuff like this. I looked at the Vikings, I looked at the Norse, I looked at a lot of different cultures. But once I got into the witches, like, our people, right, and who were persecuted and executed and destroyed by the church. Well, what I found out was 50% of all witches that were arrested and tortured were also accused of being werewolves. 50%. So witchcraft, traditional witchcraft, like really old school trad witchcraft, had shapeshifting and lycanthropy as part of what they did. And in this book, I actually have quotes from the witchcraft trial documents of people saying, yes, I was a witch. This is how it worked. The Lord of the Forest took me in and initiated me, and I met the coven secretly. This one was in France, in the woods. We all met. We all stood in a circle, and each held a candle in one hand and held hands, and it had a whole very clear exactly what the rituals were like. Then he handed me, as a new initiate, a wolf skin belt, which is traditional, and a salve to rub on me, which was probably psychedelic, right? And then helped me transform into a werewolf Now they say a number of places they say, my body fell asleep. I took the form of a werewolf and ran and did all these various things, right? Well, this is the exact same thing I'm finding in a dozen other historical books. I found a book on Slavic witchcraft and Slavic magic, and and you're gonna love this. There's a term that's used in the Slavs. I think it's Vargur, which means both werewolf and vampire. And there's a big connection in the Slavic magical stuff between the two, because a werewolf who died was said to then become a vampire. Isn't that wild? And
Wow.
I'm like, whoa. So both vampires and werewolves seem to share something. They go into a deep trance state and go into a coma. And they would hide in coffins, both werewolves and vampires. They would hide in coffins in the graveyard so no one would disturb their body, because everyone was afraid to go to graveyards, right? And then they would astrally project as a werewolf or vampire or whatever. But I was focused on werewolves. You would astrally project as a werewolf and go and run amok. So my book, I really dug deep in this, and I thought, okay, I want to know how this works, and I want to figure it out from real historical sources. What I found was there are 3 levels of this, and it all goes back to prehistoric times. In fact, the earliest image of a werewolf I found is a cave painting in Portugal that's 40,000 years old. And it's clearly a werewolf because it's a guy with a spear hunting and the head of a wolf. It's just as obvious as it can possibly be, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I guess it goes all the way back. So do you mind me do you have any questions?
Go. This is good. I'm engrossed.
I'm a university teacher and a werewolf. I could go on forever. Okay, all right. Let me pull myself back together a little bit here. And so once I started reading this, I thought, okay, how do I do this, and how can I actually write it down and work with this myself as a real legitimate shamanic system of transmutation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had now I reached back because I had interviewed several real shamans. Shaman is a word that gets bandied around a lot, and it shouldn't be used. Yeah. It really means people who are shamans in Russia, right? Well, I was very lucky during the 90s to a friend of mine brought over several tribal shamans to Seattle. They were the Nani Doro, right? They were all called the Olchi tribe. And they lived in Siberia, and they lived in small villages, and they were completely separate from other cultures. Things probably have changed since then, unfortunately. But I got to hang out with them, and I interviewed them for a magazine that's now extinct called Pangaea magazine. And I got to know them, and I took several classes with them as well. But the interview was the most interesting, where I sat down and I really got to dig down into shamanism and what they do. And they thought it was hilarious that Americans wanted to be shamans. They said, no, being a shaman is miserable. It's a miserable life. No, nobody wants to hear that their kid is hearing the spirits, because then, oh no, now that's their life, and no one's going to want to marry them. And she gave me all these great hilarious stories. But the shamans, what they basically do is they go into a deep trance and leave their body. They go into the underworld, right? And they do some soul retrieval, or they look for game for the hunters. For them, it was really crucial to find where the elk and where these other animals were, because they were in the middle of Siberia, and if they couldn't find them, they would die, right? So this was her job, was to do healing and to find the animals and do these things, and it was exhausting. And she said, it takes 3 days to recover. Lo and behold, in the witchcraft trial documents and in the stuff I found people who are caught being werewolves are often found in bed the next day, and it took them a day to 3 days to recover. So there's something here that's connecting everything. And as I start to connect the dots, I'm like, oh, this is really like a legit historical thing. Like, people aren't growing fangs and fur and running around like Lon Chaney, but they are going into deep trance states. And after they've been working with shaman just like in the Northmen, right? The guys who you saw who were running it were the shamans. They were the ones who knew how to do this, and they would be working with these people over a long period of time and learning how to suppress their upper cortex and let their animal self arise up, which is the lower, which is down here, right? What Carl Sagan called the reptile brain, and that would take over, and then they would be in an animalistic state, and then they learned how to go into a deep trance, very likely with the help of psychedelics, just like you saw in the Northman. And then they would go into a comatose, like a self-induced comatose state. Now, at that point, they had been for years practicing different things like swaying, growling, different hypnotic things to put them into a trance, but also practicing on their astral body, their spiritual. What a wonderful academic whose book I have it in here. His name is Canto Lecanto. He wrote an academic paper on werewolves and witches, which you would probably really like. And I can find it for you and send it to you if you want. But
yes, please.
Yeah. But he talked about the double. The Greeks and the Egyptians and others have this idea that we don't just have a soul. The church is the one who did that. We don't just have a soul. We have several different spiritual aspects to ourselves. The soul is the thing that lasts forever and comes and goes, right? But we also have this incredible astral body, and he called it the double, and that's what the Greeks called it too. And the double is changeable. Like you can build it up with magic. People who do magic can build up the strength of their aura, their astral body. And people who really are trained with people who know what they're doing, you can shape that astral body into any form you like. It can be a wolf, it can be other things, right? So a lot of this seems to be, and I got lots of dual, triple verification on this, that whatever the primary predator was, the alpha predator, is what people wanted to be in terms of shapeshifting. So in Greece and in Rome, ancient Rome, I have a lot on ancient Rome and the Lupercalian stuff, and in Europe, that the wolf was what people wanted to be. It was the strongest, most venerated. In the Celtic world, the wolf was seen as, and still is, the wolf is seen as a positive thing, as a protector, as a helper. People who are called werewolves, warriors, are powerful werewolves that protect the people, right? Same thing in the Norse areas, where you've heard of berserker. Berserker comes from bearsark, which means wearing the skin of the bear. But aside from berserkers or bearsark, there were ulfsark, and those were the wolves. And if you remember in the Northman, the guy said, "Oh, are you a bear or a wolf?" And he said, "I'm both." He goes, "Oh, the wolves are scary." And I was like, I'm yelling at the theater, yelling, "Yes, they are!" So all of this stuff sort of came together, and then I started writing this stuff down. I wasn't planning to write a book. So I went to Pantheacon, which I'm sure you've heard of, and I went to pitch some books. I had 5 book proposals that I was going to pitch, and as a goof, I put together one for Werewolf Magick, thinking nobody's going to be interested in this. This is whack, you know. And I was like, here's one about traveling and paganism and traveling. Here's one about tantra. No. Oh, Werewolf Magick. This one. I go, what do you mean you want that one? Why? You know? No. We want this one. So then I met with a Wiser rep who went through all 5, and she goes, "Oh, we want Werewolf Magick." I go, "Well, I just showed it to Llewellyn," and they said, "Oh no, we're gonna give it to Llewellyn." So that kind of gives you in a nutshell what it's about. What I actually do is in this book is I figured out, and this book actually has more in it, way more. This is the new one. I went to Starwood with both of these, and if anybody's interested and they go to my blog, my webpage, which is werewolfmagick.com, I have actually the rituals I did at Starwood on a blog of exactly what I did. And one of the I've gotten better and better at taking people into a deep trance state. There are 3 levels. The first one is just an initial trance state where you bring up your animal self and you sink down and you hang out in that state, and it's marvelous therapy. I'm telling you. I now have a Wolf Pack that comes every full moon, and we do this. And they all say the same thing. I felt so much better the next day, because it's basically it's like cleaning, it's like defragging your computer. It's like cleaning out all the stresses and everything that's been building and building and building by circumventing your upper cortex, that brain that just constantly is rattling about stuff that doesn't really matter most of the time. By simply going into a pure animal state, you just simply exist. Being in that werewolf state, being in that primal state, is super potent, and just it's just a moment, as like a Zen moment of just existing and really hearing the animals and hearing what the rain or whatever, just being a pure animal is like fantastic. I have a dog. I have a dog. Dogs just exist. They don't think about what they're going to do next week, right? They just exist, and they have this sort of pure consciousness, this like a Taoist consciousness, right? And that the Werewolf Magic stuff has done that for me, and it's done it for other people. At Stargazer, I did a whole werewolf shapeshifting with 200 people, and one thing I've learned, because I did it at PantheaCon with about 100 people, and I did it with like 200 people, and one thing I found out is the more people you have, not mine. The more people you have, the faster it goes. Now, I don't know if that's mass psychology, but at Starwood, it got so wild. I mean, we had a bonfire in Tiki Lands, like an acre stone circle. It got so wild that I had to like bring people down. People were running around the circle on all fours, like, which I can't do. It was like wild. So, I mean, that's basically the story. Well, the second stage is you go even deeper and are able to actually do some astral work. And then the third level of shapeshifting, I have at the back of the book, but I haven't done it. And that's the actual leaving your body and going comatose, which I'm not comfortable with, because I don't have a shaman to guide me and teach me how to do that and not, die. So mostly I do the first and second shifts, but this one has a lot more activities in it.
I love it. Talking about the pack and creating your pack and thing. This makes so much sense to me. It's insane. Again, aspects of the vampirism, which the thing is also taking on that animalistic type of thing.
Yes.
And I also have a theatrical background, acting 101, how you become something else, like mask work. As soon as you put a mask in, you're not yourself. So I'm seeing, we do go into trance states. We do. I want to be a werewolf now too. I'm going to add something else to my name. I can't wait to read this.
The Slavic, let me see if I can find it. The Slavic, I might have, I do. I have it right here. You're going to love this. This is a book by somebody who's very amazing. Okay. Is it this one or this one? I think it's The Complete Vampire. Do you have this one? The Complete Vampire?
I don't think I have that one. I have a lot of vampire books. I don't think I have that one.
It's hard to find. It's by a guy named Nigel Jackson. It's very hard to find his books. But he talks a lot about the fact that there's Vargar, that in Slavic magic, werewolves are seen as they're connected with vampires, and a lot of the shape-shifting stuff is not so far off. This would be a really good book for you to see the.
I will check it out, because I actually have a school. I have a little online school, a little spirituality school, not teaching any one thing. But my partner is Father Sebastian, is a vampire. So it's a witch and a vampire. And this kid in Italy started this school. So I will definitely check out that book. That's Awesome.
Well, if you ever want,
So how will this? Mhm.
if you ever want a werewolf in on your show or on your classes, let me know.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you next. Will you come do a guest thing or even regular?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, I know
yeah.
you know everything else we teach. You teach spellcrafting and folk magic and
Oh, I love
yeah,
hearing
because
all
that's
that
what you
stuff.
need to do more teaching.
Oh, I love
Okay.
it. Oh, what
So
can I?
how this no, okay,
What's
so,
that?
my people are listening and watching, and they're gonna go, "Oh, wow, I really like that." So, how can this it c and again, in this book, going into the I mean, words we use, egregore and this and that, and
Right.
so how will this help somebody, like 2022, coming out of the pandemic, everybody's a little whack. So how can that guy, "Oh, this is gonna make my life better."
Well, also this is sort of the basic. This gives you the history.
Start there.
So a lot of people like the history. Some people don't. They just want to get right into the magic. This has the history and the basic ideas. But if you want to just go right to the magic, I actually have I have the first part of this book is like a review of werewolf magic and gives the basic ideas, the ethos, the sort of the fact that there's a lot of like far right groups that are really grabbing onto this werewolf thing. And I basically no prejudice, no homophobia. I that everybody I'm working with is accepting of everybody. I mean, we're werewolves, right? I mean, you can't, I mean, you gotta be kind of
Can't be
accepting.
too judgmental.
And you probably noticed the subtext of it, the subtitle is Book of Shadows. So to me, this is essentially a witchcraft book of shadows. It's just with a focus on animistic practices, animism, shape-shifting, and whatnot. But I have an Esbit in there, a werewolf magic Esbit. I have a Sabbat ritual. There's photos in there of the shrine, of putting together a shrine. It basically has evolved into a kind of traditional craft, and so I think anybody interested in witchcraft will actually really get a kick out of this. In fact, one of the things that kind of I was a little worried about was I make so many references to witchcraft like Sabbat and Esbit. I was worried that some people would be like, I don't know what those things are, but I know witches are going to go, oh, I know what those things are. And I've been in several covens and shape shifting, but their shape shifting
Mhm.
is like, let's all sit around and imagine that we're owls. But that's not what I do. We stand, we rock, we growl, we lunge, we run around, we sweat through our clothes. It is extremely intensive. And we do not speak. I have a lot of spells in here too. In both books, there's a lot of spells. But getting into that state of like werewolfery is a great word that they used to use. Getting rid of sort of pulling down your brain and letting your animal self emerge takes about an hour of trance work. And once we're in that state, we tend not to use words at all. And what I found is not using higher cortex functioning language, like, hey, this is really great or something, that immediately pulls you out of the trance until you're in a super deep place. Then you can do a little bit. But we invoke the gods of witchcraft in a very simple way, and I can show you right now if you want me to.
Yes, yes.
Everything is vibration. So I start with getting people to growl and howl. But I've been doing this now for 6 years, so I can really, I've got this is all open. And then it's in it. Yeah, as low as you can get, right? You're good. You're a natural.
I rock, I growl, I do all of that. It's like maybe I'm just a werewolf and didn't know it. I do all of that when I go into trance.
Both. It's
And
fine.
I could, and maybe I'll add bear. No, keep going with that because again, and I have a lot of British tradcraft stuff where we millworking. We are on all fours and becoming animals. Just never went, oh, werewolf.
we are destined to be friends, because the witchcraft I was initiated into was Welsh trad, and it's British trad, and so
Yeah.
so anyway, we can talk about this some other time, but we can
For days.
well, yeah. So, but shape shifting and that sort of, so growling, and then I teach them howling and growling, right? And oh, right, and I can like blast it out, and the whole neighborhood gets to hear me. But I talk about up growling, like oh, or up howling, right, and then oh, bringing it down. So there's lots of ways you can cast an entire circle, do an entire ritual without words. You use non-verbals, you use animalistic non-verbals. And the more you're into it, the more your headspace is into it, the more your brain sort of shuts down, and your animal self, like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I'm into. And once we get that, then we invoke the gods this way. We invoke Mother Earth, and it's Ma. Yeah. And then we invoke the Lord of the Forest, however you want to view the green man, the horn god, right? In the primal, in a lot of the witchcraft docs, he's called the Lord of the Forest, and it's Ha. And then we invoke the Moon Mothers, and there's three aspects, right? New moon, full moon, and dark of the moon. And I've been using Artemis, Selene, and Hecate for those, but it doesn't really matter. With right? And we'll just do that, like looking up at the full moon, and we'll just go, all of us together, and feel and visualize the lunar energy coming. It's super potent, because there's no thinking, there's no words, there's no cognating. It's just the moon comes out, and the Lord of the Forest comes, and Ma, and the Earth Mother rises up within us, right? And then the wolf is, and then after we invoke the gods, we invoke the great wolf spirit, which is our tutelary deity, right? Who brings all this power to us. And when we end, we're, that's it. That's almost, for an hour, that's about the howling, the growling, they're shaking, they're swaying. There's a lot, like, this book has it really nailed down how to do it. This book adds all the stuff I just did for you, in terms of, ma and ha and ah and ra, so it's cool, right?
It is so cool. And I do ma chants all the time. I shift energy. I'm a werewolf. I didn't know.
You are a werewolf. I can tell. You got a dog. You don't have a cat.
I got a dog. I do have a cat. I have a cat. I have a little bitty baby cat.
I love cats.
I'm an equal opportunity.
I love cats too, but most every witch I know has lots of cats and dogs. They're like, dogs. And I'm like, you gotta love my dog.
I go both ways.
Me too, apparently. I'm like, fine with everything. I'm fine with everything. I mean, wolves don't care, right? Why should I? So I don't know. What else can I tell you?
I don't know. Well, people are going to be so intrigued by you right now. I can tell. So tell people where they can find you, where they can find your books, your website, anything you have coming up, because I'm going to be your stalker now.
Oh, cool. I haven't had a stalker. I'm actually making my way in the world. You can stalk the werewolf. Look for the big paw prints, right? So anybody can reach me at werewolfmagick.com. The same site is also Denny Sargent author.com. I have a Facebook author page called Denny Sargent Author, and you can also find me on Facebook as Denny Sargent. I'm fine with people texting me and writing me, and then we can certainly have a conversation. I'm super friendly and energetic, and so I've had a number of people contact me, and I immediately respond, and they're so shocked that the author is writing to them. I'm like, I got nothing better to do than answer your questions. It sounds like a wonderful thing. So I'm going to be doing, it sounds like I'm going to be doing Starwood again next year, and they really liked it, and it got good vibes, and at the end of doing it at Starwood, I like I said, 200 people, right? At the very end, they wouldn't leave. And, they were all like, because we do that whole thing I just showed you to like bring the energy down. I have all these techniques for like coming out of the trance, like one that comes from Scandinavian Seder or witchcraft is shaking and just sort of bring yourself back into your body and earthing yourself. And I did all these sorts of things and banished, and then I was like, all right, well, thank you. I've got it. If anybody wants to get a hold of me. No, they're like 100 of them say, we want more.
Isn't that great?
We want more. We just spent 2 hours. I've like ripped my shirt off. All I have is a pair of shorts on. I'm sweating profusely. I'm like, I know, I don't have any more. And they said, so then the woman who runs it comes running up. Wonderful people, Starwood. Starwood was a great, amazing, open place to go. You'd love it.
I'm gonna go. I have to go.
Oh,
Well, so where do people find out about that?
Just type in Starwood and you'll find it immediately. One word, Starwood. It's at this point it's the biggest pagan witch gathering in the United States. It's in Ohio, and anyway, the head came up with all these people here, right, and said, oh, do you want to do it again? And they were all like screaming yes, and I'm like, oh my god. And she said, Friday night at the Holly Circle, or I can't remember what it was called, the Holly Circle or something like that, which is another circle in the woods. They have all these beautiful witchcraft pagan circles in the woods. No, it's really cool. And I said, okay, sure, I'll do it Friday night. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Because then I did another one on Saturday. So by the end, I did 3 presentations. By the end, I was just like, okay, I'm going home now. I'm just going to go home and like chill out.
For 3 days. Yeah.
It
That is
was
awesome.
fantastic. It was so great.
I am so excited. I want to go there just so I could experience with this. So you guys, Denny, I have to have you back. I would love to have you back.
Oh, I would love it.
And I want you to come teach at my school. It's a silly little name for a serious mystery school, University Magicus. We think real life Hogwarts.
No, that's a great title. I like it.
Yeah, no, we like it.
I studied Latin, so yeah, no, it's a good name. It's a good name.
Yeah,
like
and we have witches, vampires, no werewolves on staff yet. We have Catholic priests. We have, Satanists, everybody.
No. I'll be your resident werewolf. That's awesome.
Okay, you got this. Oh, this has brought me so much joy. I'm gonna go growl and scratch and shake and rock. So you guys check this out. This is gonna be coming out soon, right?
It's gonna be out
Werewolf Pack Magick.
Beginning of September. It's already being sold right now, pre-order. So, and I think it's doing well. I mean, this book did so much better than I thought it would. I've written a bunch of books, and this one, I don't know if it was pandemic or werewolves, I don't know what, but I did want to say one more thing. This shape-shifting thing is not just wolves. Like in China, I traveled throughout Asia, it's were tigers. In Morocco, it's were hyenas. And in different parts, it's different animals, but shape-shifting is in every single culture I've ever gone into. So let's
shape-shift together, everybody.
Back into the animals. I just want to end with one thing. One of the things that's really come out of all this for me is that we are completely disconnected from the earth and the ecosystem. And by connecting with your animal self, I was able to go into the woods and see the interconnections between the ecosystem. I was able to prowl around at night when I was in that state of trance and creep up on animals. I was able to see really well at night. I was able to do a lot of things, but I think the bottom line is that we are in deep trouble in terms of our environment. And we have disconnected from being animals because the religions that exist say that we have souls and animals don't, and say that we have control over nature, can do anything we want. But I don't think that's true. And when you're in an animal state, you suddenly connect on a visceral, deep, primal level, and all of a sudden you wake up to the fact that no, I'm an animal. People are animals. We are animals, And
yeah, I know. I 100%. And I think, again, that this resurgence or whatever, people are waking up a little, whether they consider it elemental work or we need it. Get our eyes off the friggin' heavens for a while. We got to save this little planet. That's why And people, I'm noticing, I mean, not werewolves so far, but there is probably, like you're saying, there's a rise in werewolves, rise in vampirism, the good kind. We're the good kind, not the bad. I mean,
That's
like
right.
it's everything, there's good and bad. But I mean, people like who are like maybe
Not
more new
vampire.
agers and magical. They're going. I remember Chris Fleming. He's a beautiful medium. I work with him on TV. He's like, I saw a gnome. Gnomes are real. I'm like, yeah. But people, because we have to get back onto the earth.
We have to do
Yeah.
that. For me, the one path I have to share is by unleashing, by opening up to your animal self. Because our whole life we're told, don't eat like an animal. Oh, you're being an animal. Animals are good. We are animals. We have to. I make whenever I do some sort of activity, I make everybody say, I am an animal. And there's a moment where they're like, you are. We are. We're Homo sapiens. We're primates. We're animals. And our part of this problem is we have this mental block to accepting that we're part of our ecosystem, and Native Americans, lots of tribal people I've met in a dozen countries, are all like, we learned everything from the animals in the land. We learned what's poisonous, what feeds us, what works. We try not to overhunt because we know that's our game. We honor every deer we kill. I mean, these sorts of interconnections and seeing nature and animals as our kin is lost in our culture. And I think it really has to come back for us to really grasp that we are connected with we're connected with Gaia, we're connected with the earth, we're connected with the Great Mother. Yeah.
Let's howl on that one. Oh my gosh, one of my favorites ever. Everybody, check out Denny Sargent. This is the best. Get a little wolf in you, everybody. I'm going to. So, is your puppy there?
You want to see my dog?
I do. I don't know where mine is.
By the way, he's a member of our pack. It was very funny. It took him like several months to get used to it.
Oh, he's big.
He's a big boy. But it was very funny. Like the first, like say 5 or 6 times we had our Werewolf Magic group and did it, he just sat and watched. And then about 2 months ago, he just jumped up and ran over and sat with us and howled with us and did everything with us. So he now is a member of the pack. And whenever we get together, he just trots over and sits down with us.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
He found his people.
He's found his people. First he was scared. He's like, I don't know. Now he's found his people. Yeah.
Now he's found his people. Well, again, please come back again. And I am going to talk to you about the school and everybody out there. Oh, my little folks, check out Werewolf Pack Magick and the original Wolf Magic and
Werewolf Magic.
We all need a little werewolf.
They did a nice job anyway. Yeah. Thank you so much, Pat. You have been like probably my favoriteest person so far, just because your enthusiasm and you have all kinds of wonderful stories. And anyway, thank you so much for
I can say the same about you. It's the Mutual Admiration Society, so I like that. So thank you for bringing your magic, your werewolf magic, to the Witching Hour.